Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're diving straight into the fascinating and honestly kind of frustrating science of why adult badminton players get hurt and exactly how we can avoid it. You know, we've all been there, right? Our minds are absolutely convinced we're Olympic athletes out there on the court, while our bodies, well, they politely remind us that we just sat in a swivel chair for 40 hours straight. Every player knows the stories. The knee that randomly aches after a weekend tournament, the shoulder that's just never been the same since a heavy smash session, or that rolled ankle that makes you terrified to move aggressively. But research shows these aren't just freak accidents. Today, we're going to focus on exactly how us recreational players can decode those warning signals and stay on the court for decades.
So let's start with a really baffling question. How does someone who is genuinely fit, great cardio from the gym or running, end up limping around for 3 weeks after a basic split step? It's a paradox, and it frustrates so many adult players. You feel fit, your lungs are burning in that good way, and then, bam, a joint just completely gives out on you. To understand why, we really have to look past the cardio and hone in on the mechanics of the sport itself.
Just look at this quote. It perfectly captures the first major myth we need to bust today. The idea that badminton injuries are these unpredictable, dramatic accidents that only happen when you're fully diving for a shuttle. Actually, sports medicine research tells a totally different story. Badminton asks your body to accelerate, decelerate, rotate, and land, often all in a fraction of a second. So the injury patterns? They're incredibly predictable. As this player figured out the hard way, the danger usually hides in the absolute most basic movement in the entire sport, just landing.
In fact, when we look at the data, overuse injuries happen roughly 3 times more often than acute trauma. 3 to 1. What that means is your body is actually sending you warning signals weeks, maybe even months, before something finally snaps. But, most of us just ignore that slight ache in the elbow or that little stiffness in the Achilles. We write it off as normal soreness, right up until the exact moment it becomes a total career-halting injury.
Now, there is a super fascinating contrast between the pros and the rest of us. Elite players break down from cumulative overload. Basically, thousands of hours stressing the exact same structures the exact same way since they were literal kids. But recreational players, especially those of us who picked it up as adults, we get hurt because of a critical physical mismatch. You're taking a 35-year-old cardiovascular system into a highly dynamic sport and trying to execute rapid movements that your connective tissue has simply never practiced. Researchers actually have a name for this. They call it the movement literacy gap. Think about it. If you spend all week sitting at a desk, your connective tissues simply haven't rehearsed the explosive movement vocabulary that badminton demands. Your joints are literally uneducated in how to absorb the shock of a sudden lunge or the massive twisting force of a jump smash. And this gap? It's the birthplace of almost every single injury we're looking at today.
Okay, Section 1. Lower body impact zones, tracing the kinetic chain of failure. Let's see how this builds from the ground up, starting with those legs.
According to a massive study by the Badminton World Federation, an overwhelming 67.31% of all injuries in the sport happen to the lower limbs. Over 2/3. When you think about the constant lunging, the explosive push-offs, the rapid changes in direction, well, it makes perfect sense that your legs take the absolute heaviest beating on the court. Injury number 1, the lateral ankle sprain. This is the single most common injury in badminton, across all levels, period. It typically happens during a lunge, a split step, or a lateral shuffle. Your foot lands perfectly on the court, but your body weight and momentum are still aggressively moving sideways. The result? The ankle rolls outward way faster than the muscles around the joint can react to stop it.
But here is the really fascinating science behind it. Ankle sprains aren't just about having weak muscles. They happen because years of sitting at a desk lead to a massive loss of proprioception. Now, proprioception is basically your brain's internal GPS for your joints. When that connection gets dull, your brain literally doesn't realize your ankle is rolling until it is way too late to fire those stabilizing muscles.
So, what's the fix? Well, you have to actively wake up that internal GPS. Retraining your nerve pathways with some really simple single-leg balance work is the ultimate armor against rolling your ankle. Start with your eyes open, then progress to your eyes closed. Tossing a wobble board into your routine just a few days a week directly empowers your nervous system to catch that ankle before it fails. It's a real game changer.
Moving up the leg, we hit injury number 2, and these are the sneaky ones. Patellar tendinopathy, better known as jumper's knee, and Achilles strains. Unlike an ankle sprain, these usually don't announce themselves with some dramatic pop on the court. Nope. Instead, they show up as this dull, throbbing ache the morning after a really heavy weekend session.
The culprit here is eccentric loading.
See, every single time you lunge deeply or land a jump smash, your patellar and Achilles tendons act like giant springs. They lengthen under immense tension to violently decelerate your body weight. If you go from a totally sedentary work week straight into 3 hours of aggressive weekend badminton, you are loading those tendons way faster than the collagen inside them can actually recover and remodel.
But hey, the good news is you can literally rebuild these connective springs. The fix just requires committing to the unglamorous work of slow eccentric loading. For the knee, we're talking slow decline squats, lowering yourself over like 3 to 4 seconds. For the Achilles, it means dedicated straight leg and bent knee calf raises. I know, it's not flashy, but it's the exact science professional physiotherapists use to absolutely bulletproof those tendons.
Okay, moving on to Section 2, Upper Body Stress Points, the hidden toll of the smash and slice. Let's shift our focus upward, where bad technique and poor posture quietly conspire against your joints. Injury number 3 is badminton elbow. And let me tell you, it is a massive misconception that elbow pain is just a tennis problem. In badminton, lateral and medial epicondylitis constantly plagues us recreational players. Because the racket is so light, people think they can just muscle through bad technique. But repetitive flicking and slicing with poor forearm mechanics, that takes a massive, disproportionate toll on those tiny elbow tendons.
What's really fascinating here is how we fix it mechanically. If you're out there using a death grip on the handle and playing with the racket strung far too tightly for your swing speed, you are transferring this massive, damaging shock directly into your forearm tendons on every single shot. The fix? Loosen that grip until the exact millisecond of impact. And seriously, get your string tension lowered to a level that matches your actual physical strength, not the strength of a touring pro.
Next up, Injury 4, Rotator Cuff Impingement. Let's talk about the shoulder. The overhead smash is absolutely the signature shot of the game, right? But it demands extreme rotational velocity. It takes your shoulder from extreme external rotation and whips it into internal rotation in a fraction of a second. During that violent, explosive motion, the rotator cuff tendons can so easily get pinched right under the bony arch of your shoulder blade.
And the reason recreational players suffer from this so often, well, it goes right back to the office. Bringing a desk-conditioned, forward-rounded posture into a match means your shoulder blade fundamentally lacks the stability to support that high-speed smash. You have to actively undo that desk posture. We're talking resistance band pull-aparts and proper rotational warm-ups before you ever step on the court. Simple arm circles? Yeah, they just don't cut it anymore. Finally, Section 3, the Prevention Playbook, the boring habits that keep you on the court. Now that we've diagnosed the primary culprits hiding in your movement patterns, let's build your permanent antidote to that movement literacy gap. So here is your ultimate formula for longevity. Listen, injury prevention isn't about magical cures, it's about these foundational, kind of boring habits. You need real, dynamic warm-ups to raise your tendon temperature. You need badminton-specific shoes with a low profile and strong lateral support to stop those ankle rolls. You need to cross-train your glutes and core to take the load off your lower back. And above all else, you have to manage your training load progressively so your tissues can actually adapt safely over time. Now, even with absolutely perfect preparation, setbacks happen. It's sports! If you do suffer an acute injury, the immediate protocol is crucial. Deploying the PRIC method, protect, rest, ice, compress, and elevate, for the first 2 to 3 days is scientifically proven to reduce inflammation, limit tissue damage, and significantly accelerate your return to the court. Seriously, do not try to just play through the pain. So, let's wrap this all up. Ultimately, mastering this highly addictive, explosive sport isn't just about hitting the perfect jump smash or possessing bottomless cardio. It's about respecting the physics of the game and actively closing that movement literacy gap. It's about asking yourself right now, are your joints genuinely prepared to keep you playing for decades to come? Thanks for joining me on this explainer, and I'll see you on the court next time.